Are you and your spouse right now at the end of the rope, at the end of it all, at the end of I have the papers of divorce sitting on the counter right now? You're in this valley of decision and you're not sure which way to go, and you desperately want it to work out. And so does your spouse. You desperately want to work it out, but you're just not sure if it can all work out. Can I just tell you one thing before you make a life altering decision? That if you and your spouse are on the same page and you put God in the middle, I guarantee you that God can come in to any kind of situation and he can fix it. He can mend it. He can heal it. He can set you on a new path and a new, almost feels like a new relationship that you didn't even couldn't even dream of, couldn't even hope for. This like was wild. Maybe you thought it was like a wild fantasy or an imagination, but with God, all things are possible. My name is Ben, and I am with my beautiful wife, Kristen. And several years ago, we were in the same decision. We had to figure out exactly what we were going to do. So we both decided to give it one last effort. And I can tell you this, that we put God in the middle, and He did some incredible things as we spent thousands and thousands of dollars going across the country to multiple marriage conferences and really started the healing journey in our marriage. And today, we are stronger than ever. We are on the same team, the same page. We are doing life together. Any battle that comes our way, we are taking that head on together. It's not her battle, it's not my battle, but we are doing this together. And so, from this today, we want to talk and encourage you where you're at into your situation that all things are possible if you just give it to God. Okay, so today, right now, in your all your fondest memories of us mending and rebuilding our relationship, what is the number one thing that you think is like right now stood out the most? That's like deep into your soul, in your heart, pierced your heart, girl. What is that thing that like where you can
So,
tell somebody?
so I don't know that it's the one that has stuck with me the most, but it's the one that foundationally shifted me the most. And that was that first year at that conference. Craig Rochelle spoke, and he opened up by talking about um, that your spouse, we always talk about like our spouse should be number one, they should be number one,
Mhm.
but really God should be number one and your spouse should be number two. And that was a shift for me because I think we naturally just live a really selfish life, especially before marriage. And you're always just kind of fending for yourself, looking out for yourself, thinking about what you want for your future. And then all of a sudden, here comes this other person. And now you're trying to build a life together and you have to make room for their dreams, make room for their desires and their strengths and their weaknesses and their flaws and their pet peeves and all of that. And I think the most foundational thing that changed in me was remembering that as long as I keep God first, that's more important than me trying to fix us.
Mm.
Because I think for so long I tried to fix us in my own strength, like my focus was on you. My focus was on all of the things that were bugging me about you or all the ways that you weren't meeting my needs. And it was very selfish of me, but it was also just very focused on you. And once I realized from that conference, like from that session, even that God's supposed to be my number one. And if I'm pursuing God and then we are together pursuing God, then we are, it's like that triangle. You've probably seen this, but like if we're both here and we're both going towards God, like we naturally move towards each other.
Mm.
And I think just that shift of, and seeing that visual even, and just thinking about that, because as I'm pursuing a relationship with God, I'm getting better. I'm getting sweeter. I'm getting more patient. I'm getting more loving. I'm getting more encouraging of you and having more compassion for you and um, less selfish and just all that pruning that needs to happen in me. And that was a big shift for me. So was stop because I was trying so hard to just fix you and that
Yes.
wasn't working.
Fix it, fix
I
it,
was
fix it,
I
Felix.
was just trying to fix you and it wasn't working. And it's like it was shifting perspective, shifting focus and like take my eyes off you, get my eyes on God and my relationship with God, which ultimately points back in the mirror then, because it's like, what do I need to change? Because I think so much of it is focusing on the other person and how they need to be better that we forget that there's two people in the relationship and we have a lot of work we have to do ourselves. So that's a big one. What about you?
Well, I feel like there was it's I think it all comes to that first year if I'm not mistaken. But I think in that first year there was so many different speakers that just like spoke directly to our like soul.
We were mind blown about
I
everything.
mean, just like
Why was that all so new to
I
us?
don't
Like I had
know.
never heard any of that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think an interesting one that like maybe it's not like the main one, but I think one in particular was when we talked about the almost like the soul ties, right? And I know if now that it's been like years later, I've heard different preachers actually like preach this and like break it down, but like he was the first one that I really actually heard talk about like soul ties and how our brain is wired is it was designed for one person. And so when we, the first touch, the first kiss, that first look, and all the butterflies just came. Like all of these emotions and these feelings are wiring your brain
Like
together.
literally
Like
physically in your
physically, the way
brain.
that God designed us
Yeah.
was for you and one person. So when in the Bible where it talks about like being holy and saving yourself from like it's for a purpose because it's the way that God designed us.
Hmm.
But so often, so many of us don't start the relationship right from the beginning because we've had multiple partners or we've had serious relationships that never really went to anything or maybe a divorce and then you come back together and now you're married again. So there's so many different stories out there now that's very few are like we did it the right way, meaning like we were virgins and then we got married. Like that story is very far few in between nowadays, right? So um so when we have that mending together of that first whatever, you're mending it together and then that was just a girlfriend or that was just a boyfriend and then you have a new one. So now your brain and your wiring starts freaking out and rewiring itself. And then you have another one and another one, or this relationship gets really serious. And now it's like so pretty soon before it's mended together. Now it's like just two different things that's not mending together. So when we talk about now we found the one that we want to spend the rest of our life with, well now there's not that connection that God had designed for us to have. Now, the cool thing was, and then we're just like both like, what? Like, oh my gosh, because we both did not do it anywhere proper ever. So hearing this almost like for the first time, you're like, I've heard these scriptures before when I was younger, but now it completely made sense because
In
somebody
context.
actually explained it like into actual context, right?
Well, and he mentioned too, like this goes for pornography too.
Right. So
And that
yeah.
was crazy
Yeah. So even like when you see images and
because your
it
brain doesn't know the difference. It's
exactly.
seeing someone and it's trying to connect.
Yeah, so
That's
it's
crazy.
trying to find it, and so then if you're addicted to pornography or all the other the little devices and stuff too, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like you're, and if you've been addicted at one point, now you're like your brain is like freaking out because
Hmm.
now numb and like love and sex is just it's not connecting the way that God had designed it for you,
Or you think it's harmless in your marriage still.
right?
So it would, yeah, it was
So
crazy.
having, but the cool thing was is like how you can fix it. So was he just like say all this stuff and then like, well, I guess your guys are all screwed because good luck. It's like he didn't just do that. Like he did go into like how you can fix it, and then but it starts with like healing. It starts with like having God come in and like you know cleansing you and like and freeing you from like either it's those addictions or even just like past relationships. Like and then the cool thing is because like I guess you can say it like this, like in the beginning it was super frustrating, and then you have like the comparison and you have just all the thoughts and things that we all deal with, like when you have multiple partners and you're coming together,
Jealousy and
just all this stuff, and then you see them on Instagram or on Face or whatever, like, and then they see you at the mall and just all the weird stuff, right? because you don't think about like forever. You don't think about like, who you're spending the rest of your life with when you're dating and doing all the things like that. So having that healing process, I think that for us, because we struggle with a lot of that stuff in the beginning, like that was really eye opening, and then we're just like, oh my gosh, like that just really jacks you up. So now, like with our kids,
Yeah.
we don't just say, "Don't have sex before you're married." No, it's like we explain to them, because even like the little feelings that you have as you get older, and now you're in high school and you see the girl, like with our oldest, who's 17, and it's just like they see the girl and he wants the girlfriend and all this stuff. Like, but it's just like the Bible says to treat her like your sister. Well, why does it say that? It's because if you have feelings for that person and that's not the one that you're supposed to spend the rest of your life with, then you're attaching little soul ties and it start to attach your brain to that person.
And that's somebody else's wife.
Woo! That is somebody else's wife that you're
Yeah.
messing around with. So that thought of like, because yeah, I always heard that too. Treat her like her sister. It's like, well, that's weird and this and that. But it's like, when you think about it, this is like a command. Like this is in the Bible. It's for a reason. Like if you think about like scripture is for us, like to correct us, to protect us, to put us on the right direction. If we're making life choices and decisions, like the Bible is a very clear. So I don't hear God's voice, and I don't. Well, like, what? Start with reading the Bible because it's very loud and very clear once you start reading it and you put things into perspective and see what in the context of what it's actually talking about. Like it will radically change your life. So before we get like even far into more into this conversation, like if you, in order for your relationship to work itself out and to like change it, to renew it, which we fully 100% believe that your relationship can change 100%, but you, number one, you both need to be on the same page and going in the same direction on this. Can't just be one or the other to like really make it work, right?
Mhm.
And then like you have to be doing what the Bible says to do.
And I think that's so counterculture right now because of just the dating scene, the dating apps, swipe left or swipe right. And it's so easy to pick people up and then ditch them when you're bored or annoyed or you see something you like better. And it's like the lie of you have to test drive, all those phrases like there's just so many people living together now before marriage and seeing how that works before they consider getting married, or maybe we'll never get married at all. Why do we need the piece of paper? And there's just so much about the way that God designed the covenant of marriage to be a blessing to us that we just don't understand until you really dig in and study that out. And so just that idea of like, I need to make sure that we're sexually compatible before we get married. Like, what if we get married and we're not? But it's like, how many people, because you have a past with someone else, with other people, then when you guys do come together, like, there's a reason that God designed it to be that way. The connection and the intimacy, when you both come into it with a pure heart and just get to like grow in that together, like actually the beauty, it's like a weird thing to talk about, but
Hmm.
just the beauty that comes from that and the intimacy and connection and like lifelong bonding that you have with your partner because you are each other's only experience. There's no, like the marriage bed is pure.
Mm,
Like that was God's design for there not to be an image of anyone else in your head or a comparison to someone from the past or insecurity about the other person's past or the way your body, just there's so many things that it's like there's and you don't know until you realize like the heart of a father, God, which it can be maybe weird to think about like he designed sex, but he did. And it's to be a blessing in our marriage. And that was more stuff that we learned while we were there too.
right.
But, just that like he's a good father, a loving father, and his rules and his boundaries are always for our good. And we can sometimes look at it as he's being restrictive and he doesn't want me to have a good time or enjoy myself. But if we just remember, even like a natural parent, when we put rules on our kids, it's because we love them at the very root of it. No, you can't go to that person's house. No, you can't do sleepovers with your friend. We're trying to protect them and keep them safe. We're not letting them have social media yet. Well, my parents are so like strict,
Hmm.
that's such a natural kid thing to think. And yet, once you're older, now I look back at all the rules my parents had for me, and I'm grateful for them because I know that they loved me. Like that was the whole point was to protect me from bad friends, protect me from the internet, protect me from dangerous situations. And so I think sometimes like God gets such a bad rap for being overly protective, or like the boundaries and restrictions, and Christians can't do anything fun. And it's just a twisted and like deceived perception of it, because his heart is for good. And the best, most blessed marriage we can have is when we enter into it with purity. And so that's what, like, there was just this piece of sadness, I think, too, that you almost have to grieve. Like, I was kind of grieving that, I think, because we both obviously had a past. Like, you'd been married previously. I had long relationships before um, we were together. And so it's just, I almost just really miss that that's a piece of our marriage that we won't get to experience.
Mm.
And yet also, as the conferences go on, you just learn about like the goodness of God,
Mm-hmm.
the redemption of God, the power in the blood of Jesus, like what he did. And we don't have to even have those memories anymore, those comparisons anymore. Like so much of those things that used to haunt me, I'm not even aware of them anymore. I don't even remember them anymore. And I think that's just the grace of God in that he can redeem anything. And so when you come to him with a pure heart, and I think that was the biggest reason we got anything out of that conference. It wasn't that I dragged you there or you dragged me there. It's we both went like, let's just give this one last shot and see what
Mm-hmm.
can happen. And so we came with open hearts, and that's why we were blown away like we were, because I think God honored that. And so, I mean, every session we got so much out of it.
Hey there, we hope you are enjoying this conversation. But hey, we had a quick question for you. Right now, currently, who is in your corner for your marriage? One thing we know about the top athletes, the top business owners, the top leaders is that they all can't do it without the support.
That's right. And when it comes to a couple in business, it's the same way. Imagine what it could be like, even if you're not in crisis. Maybe everything's going great. But imagine what it could be like to have a couple in your corner, encouraging you and making sure you guys stay aligned as you continue down your path together.
Or maybe you are in crisis mode and you have no idea where to even start. Well, we can help you with that too.
There is going to be a link in the description below. You can click that link and you can go ahead and book a discovery call with us. We would love to get to know you, hear your story, and see if we might be a good fit to help you on your path moving forward.
Let's get back into this conversation. Yeah, and so that just it goes back. I'm gonna go say it again. Like, you both need to be on the same page when it comes to this. Like, if it is that last ditch effort, like, all right, let's do something. Let's try give something a try. Like, you both have to come in agreement and be on the same page, because one of you could be desperately wanting the other one just to get it, and then honestly, like, I think if you are a man and you're listening to this, like, it's time just to step up. Like, it's time, like, to stop taking the back seat. It's time to like stop letting all the hurt affect you, or what she said or what she did, or even just how your dad was, or there's so many excuses. And I feel like as a man, like, especially nowadays in 2026, like, we can make so many excuses about, it feels like, everything. And it's just time to knock it off. It's time to like step up and, like, when you say like be a man, no, it's like time to like be a man. Like a biblical man that like God has created you, where he's like he put man in the garden to tend and keep. He put man in the garden to work. He put man in the garden to like name all the animals. He put man in the garden to, and he gave him a wife. And it wasn't like, but he made him a ruler and dominion over the garden. And so it was Adam that jacked it all up from the beginning. We want to blame Eve and the serpent and all this stuff, right? And that's cute. It's a cute little story to tell ourselves so that we can blame the woman and be funny. But at the end of the day, like, the man was, his job was to tend and keep. So it's time for us men to rise back up, tend and keep.
The mic drop. That reminded me of, I don't think it was at the first year of the conference, but we went a few years in a row. Maybe it was the first one, maybe it was the later one, but I just remember that exact story being brought up, and they said that the first sin in the garden, it was because of a passive man and an unsubmitted wife.
Mm. Yay.
Because, and how often we see that now in culture today. of a passive man who's not standing in his rightful place in authority over the home as the head of the household and guarding his wife, guarding his family, guarding what he's been um, commissioned to take care of. And then the unsubmitted wife who, whether she heard the instruction from God or not, but like it was Adam's job to make sure that she knew it because that was something he was told at least is she didn't now when she's presented with this temptation, she didn't go to her husband and say, "Hey babe, what do you think about this?" She just went off and made this decision by herself.
Mhm.
And rather than treating it, not like she asked for permission. I mean, because that can be a big thing. The idea of submission, biblical submission between like from a wife to her husband is such a weird thing in like, boss babe culture these days. But just that idea of like, it's not about asking permission, but it's like, hey babe, what do you think about this? And hearing him out. And then because you're anointed as the man of the household to hear from God and to know right from wrong, to have that discernment, to know what decisions to make, what things are good for you guys, what things are not good for you guys. Like that's a unique thing that God has gifted you with. And so had she gone to Adam before she took the bite and
Mm.
asked him what he thought about it, and yet then here's passive Adam letting her run off and like not being aware of what she's doing. It's just that was kind of a crazy thought too. I never heard that before.
Yeah, that's crazy with like the passive man and how it's now in 2026 and like there's so many passive men, but like it's literally been the plan of the enemy from the garden to from generation to generation to remove the man from the household. It's like the passive man, and then we have like I remember another speaker talked about like just like the history of like families, and he broke down to like 1800s was like farming, and you raise generational like farmers, like so for instance nowadays we when your kid's 18 we just can't we hope and pray that they're gonna leave, and then but think about it, in the 1800s when they turned 18 and you just kicked them out of the house, which 18-year-old is gonna go get a farm and then go take care of himself? Like zero, right? Because you generationally were raised on these farms and grew it together and then passed them down. But now we just kick our kid out and
Say good luck.
good luck, go to college, be a hero, see you later. And then we wonder why so many of us have struggled in our early 20s because we're trying to figure life out. Nothing was passed down. So like it was so the timeline that the speaker was like breaking it down was like so fascinating, because then you got into like the industrial age where the dads then like were leaving the home versus like staying on the farm and all working together and having family dinners. Now he was gone, and kind of just like progressively like as history went on and like and like here we are today, and the dad's passive, he's never home, he gets home, he's tired, and now he's just watching sport, he's just so checked out.
Yeah.
um and obviously, like it goes both ways for like the relationship to work, right? But like obviously, it's from the man's perspective. I can speak to the man a little bit more directly, and it just like because it's just so sad to see like when the guy comes to church, like if he does, he's barely there, you know. And maybe it could, and I'm not saying for every man, but like so many, like you can say like 50-50 or maybe more than that. It's just like he's just kind of there and like comes and goes and he's gone. You know what I mean? Um, and the wife's all in. She's at every event, while the husband like barely comes on a Sunday. And it's just it's like a sad thing to see like the husband does not do what his like God given like responsibility.
And then the woman has to step up and try to do that. And then everything's just out of order. And so I believe in those seasons, like the grace of God is there to help you if you're the wife in a season like that and you're trying to teach the kids and trying to lead them spiritually because your husband's not doing that. Um, that can be really hard, but just remembering that the grace of God is there to help you as you wait and pray for your husband, and not nagging and trying to manipulate. I mean, there was so much about communication that was talked about at the conference. Another big one that sticks out to me too, was just the idea of like how God says, I will never leave you or forsake you.
Mm.
And the speaker brought up that leave is physical, but forsake is emotional.
Mm,
And so leave is when my body leaves, but forsake is when my heart turns away.
mm,
And it was just how many marriages you're physically together, you're physically sharing a house, but someone's turned their heart away,
ooh,
either one of you or both of you.
yeah.
And that could either be leading to infidelity, that could be seeking, affection and attention outside of the marriage, but it could also just be a hardened heart towards your spouse. You're just not even engaged anymore. And so how many people fall into just the autopilot, the roommates, we share a house and share bills and kind of try to keep the peace with each other, but there's no romance there, there's no intimacy, there's no connection, and it's because someone turned their heart away.
Mm,
And so I believe when you reach that point of divorce papers on the counter, at some, like, how long ago did someone turn their heart away?
right.
And so, and now you're talking about following through on the physical leaving. And that's really sad to think about, because that's usually not just one big catastrophic event happens in a marriage and now we have to get divorced. At some point, there was a crack and someone let a door open to the enemy and started entertaining the wrong ideas, or someone had an attitude problem, or, I mean,
Hmm.
it's like all those little foxes that
Yeah.
get in
They
and tear
start so
apart.
little.
Yeah, it starts little and it's not addressing it when it's little. And so it's not usually one giant thing, it's a ton of little things.
Yeah.
And we think it's not a big deal, or we brush it off, or we dismiss it, or we think we want to keep the peace. I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to fight again. And we just get tired. And so much of that, so much of the ending of marriages comes from that. People just being tired
Hmm.
and kind of giving up and losing hope that it could be different.
Yeah. So on that same line too, where we heard another speaker talk about unpacking your bags
Hmm.
and before you get married, because so often we just like are in this whole love rush, drunk love thing, and you get together and you're boom, you're married, and all of a sudden, like now you're living with somebody, and now you're like, maybe you bought a house or whatever, however the situation is, and you never like you yourself worked anything out
Yeah.
from all your past relationships and the partners and all the maybe the anger issues, maybe issues with your dad and your mom or whatever. Like maybe you were physically abused and you never dealt with that. So like all of this baggage is coming into the relationship, and you got all your bags. Before you before you say you don't have any bags, honey, you got some bags, and you brought them into your relationship. You both. That's the thing is like you. Nobody's perfect,
Yeah.
especially if we don't deal with anything. So we're bringing our bags together, and what happens, right, is we shove them in that weird closet that you don't want to open up, and you got to shove that closet door. Oh, you got to pull. Both of you are pushing that door closed, and you finally get the latch, and you're getting little extra little bolts and stuff to like try to make sure it doesn't open up. Then what happens? Like a little flare up, a little attitude problem, a little like just like flashback or a trigger, and then that door wants to like break open. All of a sudden, like all this luggage is falling out. It's like a dramatic picture, but obviously it's like what goes on like in our heart and stuff when we're carrying around all this stuff that we've never dealt with. And some of it's like from childhood. But
Yeah.
yet so often we'll ignore it, maybe it's suppressed, or maybe it's just that thing that you just don't want to talk about and you won't even talk about it with God. I think that's the craziest thing is too is like most of these issues can be settled if we just bring it to God. Just like whatever it is, like I heard a preacher just recently, he's like, God already knows everything. He knows from the beginning to the end. He knows even your thoughts and what you're thinking. So the fact that we don't bring it to him, who is the only one that can set us free from it, is like mind blowing. And it's just like, how often do we just like not like try to get like the proper like help, which is from God? As we like discredit it or I've been dealing with this since 1955 and I'm okay now, like I got it, but like you're not, because you're limping through your relationship with your spouse, and then now your relationship is suffering and it's not healthy.
Guess what we have started?
We have started a online community where married couples can come together in one place.
Yes, you will meet people just like you. Have you ever thought to yourself, does anyone else go through this? Or how do those other people on social media look like they never have any problems? Well, guess what? They do. They've just worked through them, or they're not showing them to you. And so we have created a community. We are all going to be real with each other. We're there to help each other. We're there to share stories and encourage each other. We are going to have resources of things that have quite literally changed our marriage,
Right.
the way we view each other, the way we view our marriage. And we're really excited.
Yeah, so many fun things in there. We don't want to reveal all of them to you. Just know it's going to be worth every bit for you and your spouse to join together so that you can be strengthened, you can be encouraged, and ultimately you can walk with purpose together as a couple. Let's get back into this conversation.
Well, because I think we can compartmentalize it. And so it's those things that we tuck away and we're like, they don't need to know about this. And it's usually because there's shame attached to it. And even if it's not anything that you did, if it's something that was done to you, but there's shame surrounding that. I remember the picture, he said something about like you show up with your backpack, and then like the person you're about to marry is like backing up a U-Haul with all their baggage. And it's like, that might be the case, you know?
Right.
It might feel lopsided. So then it's like you want to open up and share something and they just have, one ex-boyfriend that was whatever, but you've got this whole U-Haul filled with your baggage. And I think so often we can shy away from sharing those things because we're embarrassed or still carry guilt over them. And
Yeah.
so I think even what you're saying is go to God first, but then also if it's someone you're married to, like if you're already married now at this point, you should have that love and compassion for each other to be able to share those things without judgment and to pray with each other. There's just so much intimacy that comes from opening up about things that you vowed you would keep in the dark forever.
Mm.
And I just remember that was actually a really groundbreaking session for me, was because I remember they were talking about that intimacy and having no secrets. Like, what would your marriage be like if you had no secrets?
Right.
And there was something that the Holy Spirit, just a little like tug at my heart about something that I remember literally saying, I'm taking this to my grave. It was something from my childhood that I carried a lot of shame around. And there was something about what they were talking about. But then, when you're in a service like that and like God just takes over and it's like what they were saying led me to that moment. But then they kept talking, but I wasn't hearing it anymore. It was now like this dialogue between me and God. And I leaned over to you. It was like this knowing in my heart, I need to tell you about this. And I don't want to. And I know I'm going to talk myself out of it. But right now I'm convinced that I need to tell you. And I leaned over and I said, I have to tell you something after this.
I was like so dramatic. Like, oh my gosh.
And I didn't mean for it to be so, but I also was just like, I need accountability right now. So like, I need to say this. So like the service is still going on. I just said, I just need to tell you something after the service. And that was my like, please make me follow through on this because I'm probably going to shut it down again if not. Like once the moment passes and you're out of the service and it's like daylight and you're going to get lunch, like, oh, it's tuck that away. That probably wasn't God. It's okay. But I just knew in that moment it was really important that I did that. And there have been other uncomfortable conversations we've had over the years of having to like open up and fess up about something or share a mistake that we made, or even back to the very beginning of our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so hard and it's hurtful to know that the other person's going to hurt when you share it. And it hurts to be the one that's on the receiving end of it,
Right.
But it's like once you can, I don't know, I just think the love of God in those moments and like his grace to help you through those things, because we're not perfect. None of us is perfect. We've all made mistakes. We all have a past. And it's more about our future together and what we're choosing to do differently to make our future different. There was another super powerful session that helped with that. He was talking about forgiveness. The whole session was about forgiveness. And he shared the story of when Jesus washed the disciples' feet.
Oh, good night.
And I've heard that preached. I've read it, but he brought something out that I had never heard before and never thought of before. And he said, Jesus is, this was like very close to, he's about to go to the cross.
Right.
and he gets out, he's, washing the disciples' feet and saying, "This is how I want you to serve each other, is how I'm serving you."
Mm.
Out of anyone, Jesus should have been the one getting his feet washed. And yet here he was getting dirty to wash the disciples' feet. And he knew everything, like, yes, he's God. I mean, yes, he's man, but he was also God. Like, he knew what was coming. He knew who was going to betray him.
Mhm.
And the speaker highlighted the fact that nowhere in that scripture does it say he skipped Judas.
Mm.
Judas was among the disciples as Jesus was washing their feet. And it didn't say he washed Peter and then John and then Judas. No, you go sit, you're about to betray me. No, you go sit over there and go to
Right.
the, and he went to the next one. No, it never specifies that. And so the assumption would be that Jesus washed Judas's feet,
Mm.
knowing what he was about to do, knowing how he'd be betrayed. And that level of forgiveness, I mean, I just remember that like rocking me, because it's like, it's one thing to forgive someone when you're confronted with the mistake, but it's another thing to choose to love them knowing they're going to make more mistakes,
Mm.
like to know that they're going to hurt you. And it just reminded me, I remember during a hard season of our marriage, like I lived in the book of Hosea, and I was so enamored by that story because God called him to marry a prostitute, knowing that she was going to keep betraying him. And yet he called him to do it anyway. And it's like, we think if God's a good father, like surely he's going to give me a life that's free from pain and hurt. And I'm never going to come up against those things. But he knew it. And I encourage you to spend time reading that story over and over, because just the things that were revealed to me in that because that's us, like we were the prostitute. I know we like to think of like we're the ones that are betrayed.
Mhm.
And sometimes we can relate to that. But then it's like, we were the prostitute to God. We're the ones that constantly betray him. We're the ones that constantly get ashamed of being seen as a Christian, or we bow down in a moment when we should be rising up and we
Right.
should be standing for something, but we bow down or we turn our back,
Mm.
or we pray quietly, or we hide, or we don't step up when we're supposed to. And how many times are we forsaking him ultimately? And yet he chooses us again and again and again.
Mhm.
And if Jesus could forgive Judas, if Jesus could wash his feet, what
Mm.
can we not forgive? What could ever be done to us that we couldn't be forgiven for when our sin
Mm.
is what nailed him to the cross?
Gracious. It's yeah, I think remember we were both sitting there in that session. It's like, cuz like going back to like that thought of like we never heard these messages like the way they were bringing them out for like marriage, and we're just like, man, like, cuz like we were just like two messed up broken people doing life together, had some young kids, and just like falling apart left and right and not knowing like if there was any hope. And then so like listening to these messages, and again, it always is going to go back. Like whether you have a 2-on-2 with us, a 1-on-1 with one of us, if you're in our school community, like it doesn't matter if you catch us on Instagram, like, and you ask us a question, it will always be the same, that Jesus is the only answer. He is the only one that can fix any broken situation,
Yeah.
period. And no matter what you've done, no matter what your spouse has done, like if you truly want to make it work, and you want to forgive and you want to move forward, God can work with that. He can come in there and make, not just like kind of mend it and just like a weird like the old school plaster. You had to get it wet and like put it on there, and all right, that's a little plaster job for you. It's like no, it's like completely remade new. Like that's like the beautiful thing that Jesus, like when he what he did and when he paid for it all on the cross. Like it's like we just sometimes so flippantly say these things that Jesus did. It's like, but if we actually look at like a story like that of like his true love, even for Judas, even the one that he knew was going to betray him, still loved him. like still loved him and for like washed his feet. Like some of y'all, like you look at each other the wrong way, and you ain't even sleeping in the same bed that night. Like you want you looking at me? You think you're gonna touch me? And I don't think so. You know, because he looked at you weird, or he said something snarky, or she said something weird. She spent a little bit too much on Amazon, so you're gonna like blow your top off. Like, oh, I'm sorry. Like that we're all not perfect. So I just when we don't want to put in the effort and we don't want it to make it work, and we just like are so selfish, then of course you're gonna have blow ups. Of course you're gonna argue. Of course you're not gonna have sex because you're just constantly nitpicking and just bitter at each other. But if you can get past yourself, and then you can actually have the commitment that you made with your spouse and actually pursue her the way that Christ tells you to pursue your spouse, like you will any kind of weird thing that's going on now is going to be fixed. Like simple. You say, "Well, how can you say that?" Because like we're a testimony to that. Like we are a living breathing testimony of the goodness of what God can do if you just give it to him. If you fully surrender, it's not like giving them the house, but like that room up there next to the stairs, like, two doors down, like just not that room. Like, no, the
Mhm.
whole room, the whole thing, every closet, every drawer is yours, God. Your whole heart, your whole mind, your whole body. It's God. Like I just need you. I desperately need you to come in here. And if you guys can do that together, there is no stopping what God can do in your life.
I think forgiveness is a really big hang up because, like you're talking about, I think that is the room that people don't want to give to God because they feel so hurt by whatever happened. And I would encourage you to pray, seek God's face, and get revelation on his forgiveness like that. Because it wasn't until because exactly like you're saying, we hear Jesus died for my sins, but I think we don't have true revelation of what he actually forgave us of and like
Mm,
what our sin actually was. Maybe you thought you lived a pretty good life before you found Jesus. Maybe you've been in church your whole life and you think you're a pretty good person.
right.
Um, you've gone, you go to church every Sunday or you give to charity or whatever the things might be. Um, but it was our sin that nailed Jesus to the cross. And when we can realize that, then any sin that's happened against us is like a grain of sand on the seashore compared to
Mm,
what we did to him.
right.
And it's in a place of self righteousness and pride unknowingly. I don't think we consciously are aware of that. But it's like, I'm not that bad, or he didn't have to die as much for me as he had to die for that person over
Mm-hmm.
there. And we can have that concept of it. And that it makes it easier to hold on to bitterness and resentment towards other people, especially if you've been hurt deeply. And so not to like belittle what anyone's been through
Right.
because we've been through some really hard things.
Yeah.
But it is the grace and the mercy of God that will allow you to truly forgive in a way that you can move on and not look back. And
Mm-hmm.
so, how many of those things get continually brought up over and over and over? And every new fight, you're bringing that same thing up again,
Mm,
and you're just beating them over the head with it. And it's
mm,
like they're never going to get to move on if you keep bringing that up. And so it takes both of you. It takes in it it's forgiveness on both sides. It's forgiveness of the other person's mistake and it's forgiveness for your own mistake if you're the one that did it. And you can hold yourself in bondage over shame and guilt, and that's exactly the plan of the enemy, is to just take you out, to take both of you out for something like that. And so I would just encourage you to really spend some time asking God for real revelation of forgiveness, because once you realize how much you've been forgiven, it makes it easier to forgive others. And that's what's needed before you'll truly get to move on. I don't think your marriage can be strong and healthy as long as you're holding a little tucked away piece of resentment and hurt in your heart.
that's really good.
And it can be really daunting to, just that concept of forgiveness. We think someone's getting away without punishment or anything, judgment or something. And it's like, that's not our job. Like, none of that's our job. And if anything, I believe the grace and the mercy and the love of God would cause you to cry out for mercy on their behalf.
Mm,
And that's, I believe that's the true love of God working through us. And so that's when God can purify our hearts cleanse us and like bring us into real relationship with him. And then like you love each other with the God kind of love that is selfless and sacrificial. It doesn't keep score. It's not holding things against each other. And it's like m- godly marriage is two selfless people serving one another. It's two servants in love. That was one of the things that was said.
Yeah.
Two servants who love each other will never have a failing marriage because you're always thinking about the other person. How can you be better for them? How can you serve them better? Help them, love them, pray for them, encourage them, help them rise up and accomplish their dreams. Um, when you're living your life like that and not so focused on you and what you need and what's not being met, then it changes everything.
Yeah.
And there is a plan and a purpose for your marriage. And when you realize that your differences should be bringing you guys together and not tearing you apart, it just sets you on this whole different direction that like we need each other. We're very different people.
Yes.
We're almost opposites in we're opposites in almost every way. Um, but we complement each other, and especially in business together and in parenting. And we need both aspects of what we have to
Right.
do the job well, like no matter what it is, like you have strengths and I have strengths. You have weaknesses, I have weaknesses, but like we kind of fill in each other's gaps. And I believe that's the plan of God. Like we need each other to fulfill what God's put us on this earth to do. We
Right.
cannot do it on our own. And that's not just practically speaking, but that's like prayer. Like I need your prayers. You need my prayers. We can see those gifts and talents inside of each other and call them out. And it's so fulfilling to watch your partner rise up into what God's called them to be. Like when you're operating in your like flow zone, it's
Mhm.
like the coolest thing to see. Cause I'm just that's God. Like God did that, and like you embracing that. And
Mhm. Yeah, it's there's a lot, so like what you said too, like there's just a lot of people, I believe, and you can see it, that they just hold on to like past hurts. And then when little things happen, they like to bring it up. And that's like the worst thing that you can possibly do. And if you want to move on and you want to like actually have like the healing that you need, like you have to choose to forgive. As painful it was, and it's like not saying like, you know, we maybe you don't set boundaries, you don't set like certain things up, like if it was depending on what the situation was, right? Like you have a little like check and balance of things, but like the forgiveness side is like different. And we're not talking about like checking in and find my friends or whatever you need to like different apps that you might need to protect you from your on your phone or whatever the situation is, right? Not traveling alone or all the things, but like forgiveness, like that's a separate like compartment. And when you can actually truly forgive, like then you see your spouse differently. You just see them like through the lens of like Jesus, and you see him differently. But then the love is different. And then what's crazy too, because like then that helps you also then pursue your spouse differently, and then you show up for them differently. And then as you grow and you mend and you're building almost like a new life together, like your love is different. Like I know it's like the hardest thing to explain when we explain it to people, but like our love for each other today is 1000% different than what it was when we first met on that little hopeless night, little nightclub.
late after midnight at a
way
nightclub.
way after me. It's just it was like through that progression of like where we came from to where we are today. Like there was never a moment of like how much I love you today that was even like close of our thought where back then, oh yeah, never in my wildest dreams. But the craziest thing is too is like continually every day, like it grows stronger and just like more attractive and all the things, right? You're just like so in love, like true like love. And it's just like because of like the when you truly forgive and then you breathe that just like true intimacy into the relationship, and that like
Yeah.
it's not the sexual intimacy but just a true deep
Just like
connection,
closeness. Yeah.
and like you're just like one with each other, to where like you guys are our best friends. And ultimately like you want to rely on like maybe a childhood best friend, or well, I've known her for years and this is my like, but like that's your husband's responsibility now, like
Mhm.
that's. And then like you as the husband, like you need to be that for your wife, the quiet one, the one that doesn't want to talk, the one that just wants to watch sports, like That doesn't work. Like, I'm saying that doesn't work because, like, and you already and you can probably, like, hit me with a little
Because
organ
it's
and, like,
not
agreeing
working.
because it's currently not
Yeah.
working. You not connecting with your wife does not work. So, like, why are we still doing the same stupid thing when, like, we know it's not working and you know how to fix it, but, like, you refuse to? Like, that doesn't even make any sense,
It's just effort.
right?
It's like care enough to, and we go through different seasons where things are dry or you go through a little rut based on different things. And I think it's just, these trials or these hardships that can come to a marriage, no matter what I mean, it could be all kinds of things. When you don't let those pull you apart, but you rather decide to turn with each other and fight through it and stay together through it, those are the things that draw you closer than ever. So it's like if you had a perfect life and nothing ever went wrong and you guys never had to deal with anything, I don't think your marriage can be as great because you haven't gone through the storms of life and learned to get closer and stick with each other through them. Like our trust for each other, our companionship, our just ability to be open and share and have conversation and like share our true emotions and feelings about something and our raw thoughts. And there's no judgment there, but we're there to encourage each other and help build each other up in hard seasons,
Yeah.
like you can let that first bump in the road that can really easily just derail people
Mhm.
and they just throw in the towel because back to what we said in the beginning, you're used to the dating game. And when it got hard, you just dropped them and went and found someone else.
Mm.
Well, like you've trained yourself throughout your dating life now to treat your marriage like that.
Ooh.
Marriage is covenant. Marriage is not temporary.
Sheesh.
Marriage is not about what I feel like. Marriage is not about, I'll stay with you as long as you meet my needs and make me happy. But once I feel like I'm not getting what I want, then I'm going to move on. Marriage was never meant to be temporary like that. It's covenant, and covenant is forever. And that means no matter what comes, I'm with you in this and we're going to get through this together. No matter what you do to me, no matter what I do to you, no matter what, because we're humans, we're broken humans that are growing and learning through life, right? And trying to get better. But because of that, we are probably going to stumble. It's like, I remember seeing this picture like years ago in Hebrews when it talks about we're running our race.
Mhm.
Um, it's that like I picture a big track where you're all in your little line, and you're running your race next to someone else who's running their race, and husband and wife, you're running your race alongside each other. And your spouse might trip and fall and crash into you
Mm.
and knock you both down because they make a mistake. And now you're both on the ground. And it's like, are you just going to stay down there and like shake your fist at life and blame them for knocking you down? Or are you going to get back up and start running your race again and like reach
Mm.
down and reach out your hand and pick them up to help run their race again,
Right.
You don't just quit and go sit in the bleachers and like, well, I guess I'm never going to accomplish anything in my life because of what they did to me. They took me out. Like we could live as a victim forever.
Right.
We could, and we'd have good reason and people would give us a pat on the back and a tissue. But and not to say, again, like we get fiery about stuff, not to belittle what was done
Mhm.
and to take away from the hurt that you might have experienced.
Yeah.
But don't let it, you're not responsible for what happened to you, but you are responsible for how you respond to it and what you do the rest of your life moving forward. And don't be the person who's 95 years old on the bleachers, who had a whole life that they were supposed to do of good for the world, but they let something take them out because they didn't choose to forgive. And just back to forgiveness too, like I'll set somebody free with this one because this was a big one for me. Forgiveness is not a one-time event.
Mm.
And that was mind-blowing for me because I remember in my prayer closet through the tears, moment with God and like, yes, I forgive, I forgive. And then the next day, the reminder of the thing, and now you're mad again. Like you have to remind yourself that you forgave and you have to forgive again. And that's okay. And that could take months or weeks or years, but you chose to forgive, and forgiveness is a choice. It's not a feeling. So when you
Mm.
have the feeling like I'm mad again, when the enemy brings up that thing over and over and just wants to remind you and rub your nose in it again, you have to remind yourself and remind the enemy that you chose to forgive.
Yeah.
And we don't go by our feelings. We made that decision and it's done. And if you need to write that in your journal and put a date and circle it, and every time those memories pop up again, you go back and you say, no, I chose to forgive.
Mm.
Um, that's what's required, because
How
I haven't
many?
experienced that, but maybe you got like an instant deliverance. I never had an issue again.
Ah!
But I think a lot of it is in God's mercy and his grace, like he's with us to walk it out the rest of our
Mm,
lives.
yeah.
And he gives us the strength to do that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, how many arguments or feelings would be stopped if you would just like, no, you reminded yourself, I just forgive. You get stormy, you just like leave, and you're just like, today's just irritating me. And it's just like, because you're bringing something up that you already chose to forgive.
mhm.
Like, bring it. So it's like, I feel like, yeah, I feel like you're going to see a bunch of women just like running around, maybe men, just like
Well,
running,
and don't rub their nose in
just the
it
freedom.
because they're also on their journey trying to recover and trying to get better and trying to move forward. And so, yes, you're struggling. And sometimes we think we have the right because they hurt us. But it's like if you want them to get better, if you believe there's hope for this, you can't keep rubbing their nose in it either. And it's not that you can't ever talk about it. Obviously, like there has to be a time and a period of time where like you talk through it. What were the issues? What are the boundaries? What are the things we need to do so this doesn't happen again? Whatever the situation might have been. And maybe you need counseling. Maybe you need to be able to talk through it with someone. I'm not saying just stuff it under the rug. I'm saying bring it up to God, like surrender the whole thing to him. And then once you decide you're going to move forward, there does come a time where you need to just stop bringing it up
Mm,
and let the grace of God just cover it and move
hmm.
forward. There has to be that point, or you're just going to keep running. I mean, it's like Groundhog's Day and no
Yeah,
one's ever getting any better.
you're not. And then now you're just in the situation that you are now.
It's
And
bondage. Yeah.
you're not finding the healing and the love. And it's just because you're
Yeah.
just wild. And it's like, and then that's not even just in with your relationship with your spouse. It's like any
Anyone.
relationship with anybody,
Yeah.
especially at church or at work or
A
your mom.
parent,
And
a
like, yeah, it's like
sibling.
just like whoever it is, like you have to choose to forgive because you can't, even if like something doesn't like a relationship doesn't get fixed, like the old friend or whatever, and but you still have to choose to forgive because if you hold on to that, like that unforgiveness is nasty little
It ruins
disease.
your life,
It literally, the
not
other
theirs.
person, oh, look, they don't even like they're just living their life all free. It's like yeah, because they don't even remember anymore. But you're holding on to something that's literally just bounding you to the ground like a cement block of and a chain wrapped around your
Cement
neck
block.
and
Oh.
tossing the. Anyways, very dramatic. But another
End with the
another
drama.
cool one that I want to leave you with too is another speaker said, and we always quote this, is that the grass isn't greener on the other side. Water your own lawn. I just feel like that's just
Yeah.
like such a great way, as you talked about, the quick comparison game. You have the uh, how we used to live, where we just like dumped them and moved on, and this whole like the whole world that we are living in today, where it's just a quick move and like now we're moving on, and oh, they're not really meeting my needs now, and all the things that we can come up with, right? But like, when's the last time you watered your own? Well, you're putting all this effort into thinking about this other life, all this stuff. You made a whole Pinterest board on it.
When your eyes are over there, do you know where they're not?
Hmm.
In your own yard.
Sheesh. Right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna leave you with that. Water your own lawn.
If it looks greener somewhere else, it's time to water your
It's
own.
time to get that water bill up and start watering. So, yeah.
On that note,
Hey, we truly, truly, truly hope that this conversation helped you. And no matter where you're at in your relationship right now, we know this, that there is hope. It is a process. And I hope that you understood that as you listen to this conversation, that healing and a journey of walking things out, it is a process. But if you can do it together and you put God in the middle of it and you give him all those cares, we're telling you, God can do some insane things, and we are a testimony of it, and we will continue to shout it from the rooftops. Hey, if you don't have anybody in your corner, we want to invite you to our online community where there's like minded people just like us that have walked through life, going through life, and we just want to sit by your side and encourage you through the journey. So if that's something that you would like and want to join and get some more information, just click the link below, and we will see you there.